What up, Wizards? It's Deb from the place we like it, a Magic. Got Igby with me down here today, slightly off camera, I think, and he blends in with the couch and my shirt and stuff. I promise I'm not petting my own belly, although not necessarily above that. Also, you can stop digging your claws and teeth into me now. That would be nice. He's doing it in a nice way, if that makes any sense. You know how cats are. Sometimes it's a cat channel, but more often than not, it's a Magic the Gathering channel. So let's talk about that today, everybody. We're here chilling today to celebrate the end, almost, of Modern Horizons 3 season. Just in general, we're probably going to stop talking about the set like pretty soon after we do this video, but we got to finish the whole thing off with the top 25 cards. We've already done our top 10 sleepers, which is my favorite video of every previous season to do because it's pretty low stress. And I'm like, hey, have you seen this? Have you heard about this? But when it comes to these videos, these are all cards that you have seen and heard of for the most part. And it's all about like, should it be number 3 or should it be number 5? And people get really mad over like which one of them I choose. So this is sometimes a stressful video to make, but this time, honestly, kind of had a lot of fun. Modern Horizons 3 is a really, really strong set, and I kind of had trouble keeping it down to a top 25 here, but I think we pulled it off, and I think I'm okay at justifying my decisions. I guess we'll see together, right? Modern Horizons 3 top 25. Let's hit it. And I'm your favorite Magic channel's favorite Magic channel. Best believe that the professor go bananas for my deck tech. And we're back. Hey, hit that like thing down there, the thumb button. Just give that a press real quick. Appreciate you. Oh, it's good coffee. Good coffee. Anyway, we got to go ahead and get to it here because, you know, it's top 25 list, but we got way more than 25 cards to talk about. Did you forget where you were? It's just kind of how it is around here. You also know then, again, if you've been here more than once, that we have honorable mentions, plural. We have 3 of them today because I have a real problem and I can't stop talking about Magic cards. Let's go ahead and get this one out of the way. You know that I'm going to talk about Marionette Apprentice in this video somewhere. It's like, it's my video. I just get to make YouTube videos about Magic cards. So like I have to bring this thing up. I'm going to go ahead and put in the honorable mentions here to try to be as objective as possible. But, you know, in the next couple of weeks, as soon as I get my hands on it, it might end up in my top 10 favorite cards of all time ever printed. I love stuff like this. So here's a special spotlight for you, lady. You're looking great. They also knew I'd like it, so they went ahead and put it in a retro frame for me. Thanks, guys. Wrap it up. Put it right here, you know? So, yeah, I have to talk about this card. It's an awesome card. But also Glaring Fleshraker for the same kind of reasons. You know, I like Marionette Apprentice. I like cards like this. I like incremental damage, and I like getting some tokens and stuff. It's a good Magic card. But I'm not sure that it's actually like super playable in Modern. It does have really, really good abilities that kind of like it triggers itself, you know. I like stuff like that. So it's not a terrible Magic card or anything, but it's also probably not quite Modern playable. Just going in some Commander decks, that's all I'm saying. But I've also got to talk about, speaking of that, the Necro Bloom over here. Just probably my favorite Commander in the entire set. And like, there's potential for Modern playability on this card, but I'm pretty sure that it's actually just a big old meme. So I don't, you know, it's a meme, by the way, but either way, I'm not sure that it's quite there in the format of mention, but but either way, I do think this is like the most fun and coolest looking Commander in the set, and it's in a color combination I really like, and I want to dredge Lance. Just give me a copy of this card, that's all I'm saying. It's cool. It's in the HMs. Let's get to the actual list. Number 25 is the perfect number 25 because, you know, again, part of the formula around here, part of the stew we're mixing things up, putting it together around here, is that we like number 25 to be kind of an honorable mention, you know, like a card that a lot of people are talking about, but not necessarily the best thing. I think that a good example of a card, the best example ever, perhaps, of a card like that in this set is Harrogast Erupting Hellkite, which is what they used to call me in college. But if this card can get out early enough, then giving all of your creatures emerge for the rest of the game actually seems entirely stupid, especially considering this guy has a pretty high casting cost. So even if you have to sacrifice him to emerge something else in play, what are you emerging in play, right? So you can do a lot with this dude, even just by sacrificing him once he's on the table. So I actually think that there might be something to this guy. I mean, you have to get a large enough creature out to actually get him out in the first place early enough in the game. And this is the kind of puzzle that's probably only going to be solvable by like turn 4, and that's probably too slow, you know? So I do get like the arguments against the card, but I also think that once it's on the table, that line of text is outrageous. So I got to give it some love on the list here somewhere. If I had to say whether it's going to see Modern play or not, I'd probably say not, but I do want to at least put some respect on his name. Number 24 is Null Drifter, what I actually was in college. I just think you have to give like a better Mole Drifter. Can we just go ahead and call it that? Is this just a way better Mole Drifter in most, come on, in most cases, not strictly, but you know, a really good Mole Drifter, especially considering we're going to be in an Uggin's Labyrinth I almost said a Pan's Labyrinth format. It's a good movie. It's 20 years old at this point, but either way, it is a good movie. But one way or the other, Ugin's Labyrinth is a real card in this format, and I think that this is a great way of enabling your Ugin's Labyrinth to tap for a couple of mana, and then later, if you need a couple of cards, you can just use Labyrinth to put this back in your hand and evoke it for cards or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think that this is actually really, really good in some ways, but is it good enough to like crack top 20? Probably not. But again, you know, mostly Better Mole Drifter is something that I've kind of wanted for a while, and I haven't really voiced my concern, but they just know what I want, so they give it to us. Number 23 is Cozy's Command, because there's not a bad mode on the card. Even the one that looks the weakest, exile some cards from a graveyard or whatever, like, yeah, against certain decks, you will absolutely take that every day of the week. There's like 3 decks in Modern that's pretty good against, especially considering you get another mode, but the other modes in question are removal, card draw, selection really, and also like bodies that ramp. Those are all good. Spend 4 mana, get 2 bodies that can also ramp you on later turns and also like draw a card. That's scry 2 draw a card. Like those are both good modes, especially at instant speed. And yeah, the removal mode is it's off curve, or I was going to say off turds for some reason. The removal mode is off curve, and like I get all that, but still, I think that the amount of sort of selection and versatility a card like this gives you cannot be sneezed at, even in a format like Modern, especially when they made it instant speed. Just a really sick Magic card here that I hope fits somewhere. Number 22 is proof that I'm not putting any reprints on this list. Because if I was allowing reprints and not just new cards and stuff, then I'm pretty sure Planar Genesis would have to be pushed out. But instead, I get to talk about awesome stuff like this. If I was going to like talk about reprints, half the video would be reprints, and it would just be me being like, you remember this? It's going to be good. And I think it's like way more interesting to talk about brand new stuff like Genesis. And I have kind of come around on it a bit since I first previewed it. I've always liked this card, air quotes, but I did talk a lot about how it's probably worse than Growth Spiral in most situations, but I'm no longer necessarily convinced of that, right? Like off the top of your library in the late game, this is much, much better than Growth Spiral in terms of like the card selection it's giving you, right? So there's a lot of angles where this probably does play better, especially if you're behind and in the later game, than a card like Growth Spiral does. So I don't know. I have been a little bit more convinced that a card like this is worth playing in Modern, now to the point that it's actually on my list above a card like Kozilek's Command. There's not a whole lot of lower rarity stuff on the list today, but I did want to put a special spotlight on this. Number 21 is Nethergoyf. It's just a 1-mana Tarmogoyf, right? I had people in chat point out to me that actually it only works on your graveyard, which is different. It is a little bit different. For the most part, though, I think this is a just much better 1-mana Tarmogoyf. And that's gross. It's probably a gross Magic card, but is a half-price Tarmogoyf worth playing? Has Tarmogoyf fallen to the point where if we get it in a color that actually likes to mill stuff and sack stuff and blah, 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 and it's also half price, is it good? I'm not actually like 100% sure. That's why it's all the way up here on the list, is because at the end of the day, like, it's just a guy, you know, it's just like a dude. I'm not sure that it's actually as good as I want it to be in my heart of hearts. If you ask me which Goyf is going to be playable in Modern, I might say neither Goyf. I really wanted to make that joke, but I do like this card, and I have some hopes for it. And yes, I know it's Nether Goyf, just never mind. Number 20 is Guide of Souls over here. First of all, actual Soul Sister. That's cool. It's got soul in the name and everything. You see them print like Prosperous Innkeepers and Impassioned Orators and stuff today, but never an actual soul thing. Either way, I'm getting ahead of myself here. This gains you a life whenever a dude enters the battlefield under your control, which is sweet for just a single mana. That's been a Magic card in the past. Like a lot of times people love it, but also this gives you an energy when a creature comes into play on your side. And that is gross. That is I don't think cards have done that before. So that's just really disgusting if you're trying to look for like infinite energy combos and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm talking about Modern. I could be talking about Commander, but there are already infinite energy combos, multiple of them that people have figured out with like minimal pieces in Modern that you can get by like turn 3. Just the ability to get an energy when a creature comes into play on your side is a very exciting ability, especially on just a 1-drop. Number 19 is this is another card that if we were talking about Commander, it would be like in the top 5 cards of the set. Like very, very likely. And honestly, it probably shouldn't even be on this list. But again, this is my list. I get to make it however I want to. I already had the self-discipline to leave Marionette Apprentice off of this thing. So please forgive me if War and Soul Trader is my number 19. Will you forgive me for that? There are sacrifice decks in Modern that will occasionally get caught playing like Woe Strider or something like that. And I think this is just a massive improvement over a card like Woe Strider. Like, sure, it costs you the life, so it's not like a technically repeatable engine or anything, but like, yeah, come on, it's a repeatable engine. You sack 2 or 3 guys, you get treasure tokens for that. You get 3 treasure tokens, you sack 3 guys. Even realistically, this just turns like all of your opponent's removal spells into, no, you don't get to exile my guy, and also I get a treasure token. That is really, really sick, actually. So I don't know, man. I just think the upside of a treasure token is probably the best version of this effect that we've seen in the history of Magic, at least on a 3-drop, right? So just incredible sort of repeatable engine here for sacking dudes that you just don't see the likes of every single day. So it really wouldn't surprise me if this did end up seeing some sparing play in Modern, because again, it might just be the best piece we've ever seen that does this. And number 18 is Fanatic of Ronus. We just saw the best 3-mana sack outlet of all time. What if we take a peek at the best 2-mana ramper of all time? And I know that's a super lofty claim, but my goodness, this guy taps for 4 mana. It's like, and he taps for 4 mana on turn 3, like, very easily. If I was going to describe all the setups where you make that happen, we'd just be here all night. So there's plenty of ways to like double spell on 3 with huge spells, you know, like 3-drop into 4-drop and just go nuts. Or you can just have 1,000,000. I don't know if I'm doing my math right, but I think it's pretty close to 1,000,000 mana on like turn 4. I don't want to put a dork too high up the list, but this is the dorkiest dork to ever dork, and I think that means something. Number 17 is Devourer of Destiny. I know this card kind of wussed out a little bit, and it puts the thing on top of your library and not into your hand. So if it put it into your hand, it would be broken, busted, toast. It would be ridiculous. Put the card in your hand, it would be, come on, man. But I still think the card is Modern playable in its current incarnation. Just put the best card from those top 4 on top of your library. That's the one you're going to draw in your draw step. That's pretty sweet. Just add that to your hand. But also, however, and this will like fix your lands too. Oh, I started with a 2-lander. I guess I also have this card though. So like maybe I'll just put a land on top. Let's go. Like that works. I don't know. It's also a 7-drop colorless thing, and we're in a format where like Ugin's Labyrinth is a card. There are things like that matters. I promise you that matters like a lot. But also, kill a thing. It's so good. Just blow up anything when you cast this. Come on, dude. Like there's so many awesome things about this card. And again, colorless is in the casting cost. Oh my god, puts the card on top, so it's the worst Magic card I've ever seen. I think that's a little bit short-sighted, and I've seen way too many people say it. This is a good Magic card. Would I put it in my top 10? Probably not, but it is definitely in my teens. And let me tell you, me in my teens, not a pretty sight. What were we talking about? I got sad there for a second. Number 16 is Nadu, Winged Wisdom, and I'm going to get sad about this one for a second too, because I'm kind of being a wuss about it, putting it number 16 on the list. I think this is either not on a person's list whatsoever, or it's like number 5. A lot of people have been talking about this thing, and it's maybe the most divisive card from the set. I don't know if divisive is the right word, but a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about this. I just asked Twitter right before I came on, is this card Modern playable in a poll? And as I got on, about 2/3 of respondents said, yes, this card is Modern playable. And I think that may be at least partially a result of the fact that most content creators have told you this card is busted. I'm still not 100% sure, and I got to be honest about that. That's why it's number 16 on my list, but at least it's on my list. Some people this would be number 4. Some people this wouldn't even be on the top 50. So kind of hard to say. I do think, though, the more I think about it, the more it kind of dawns on me that once this card is in play on like potentially turn 2 of the game and I don't have removal for it right away, probably runs away with the game. First of all, this ability procs twice each turn per creature you control. Not just twice each turn, period. It's per creature you control twice each turn, which is disgusting. And there are some gross setups with this in Modern that kind of the most busted setups with Nadu force you to play pretty bad cards in your Modern deck, right? Like you don't want to play the equipment that like equips for 0. You really probably not. You probably don't want to play that in-core thing that like, it has the in-core redirect damage ability. It's a 0 activation cost ability that can target dudes. So you just draw cards and get lands and go crazy with the Cheese Whiz or whatever, So I understand those setups, but I actually think the best setups with Nadu are like setups that don't require you to play bad cards. And there are a lot of those. So again, the more I consider this, the more I think that it's probably a nightmare to sit across the table from if you can't immediately answer it. My number 15 is Strix Serenade. And I actually think this should be in my top 10. I don't want to underestimate this 1 mana counter spell that counters creatures, man. Like it's a swan song, basically, that counters different stuff. Instead of instant sorceries, enchantments, this time you get artifacts, creatures, planeswalkers. And I do think that like probably the most important of those is likely creatures, especially considering like, yeah, you give them a 2/2, but just like Swan Song, you're taking away like their entire game plan. This is another card that's actually like pretty gross in Commander because it counters commanders. Like again, it counters game plans for a single blue mana, which is disgusting, but I'm not talking about Commander. We're talking about Modern. And that's a format where this still counters like entire game plans. It counters Yogg or whatever for a single blue mana. There's a lot of that counters Grief for a single blue mana for what that's worth. And it's probably worth something. So, it's just, it's pretty fine. Now, my number 14 is Chthonic Nightmare, which might get confusing later on because there's an entry on the list that's just energy stuff. Talk amongst yourselves, guess which entry on the list it is right now. Spoilers and all that, but still. Chthonic Nightmare is not in the batch of energy stuff because I'm pretty sure it's not like an energy finisher or anything. I'm not sure it's going to go in strict energy decks, but I do think that it's going to be used as like the side print of Recurring Nightmare that it's meant to be. This is another one that I didn't really have a whole lot of faith in at first, but like people have had to convince me over time this card is very good. And some creators have, people like Aspiring Spike. If you haven't watched any of his content over the season so far, he's had great like tier list content for this set. Canister has put this card famed Magic player Canister has put this card relatively high on their tier list. I saw the MTG Goldfish people talking about it the other day, and the more that I hear people chatter about it, the more convinced I am. Altogether, I do like this card an awful lot, and I will put it on my list, but it's going to be one of those that not only has to prove itself, like a couple of the other ones I pointed out, but this is the one I kind of most hope proves itself. And now we're at number 13, which is kind of like halfway down the list, and I can stop making so many excuses for cards or being like, I'm actually not sure about this one. Like most of the rest of the cards on the list, I'm fairly certain about, including the new Emmy we got over here. Look, I'm going to go ahead and level with you. The other two big boys aren't here. We're not talking about Ulamog or Kozilek today. Definitely not Kozilek. Ulamog, I've heard a lot of chatter about as being like the best reanimation target in Modern. I don't think so, but I guess we'll see about that. But Emrakul, I think, is easily the best of all of these. Just almost completely unremovable, so that's the thing you're looking for. It also costs 6 mana. Don't look at the number in the top right. Don't even look at that. Don't stop it. Stop. It's not even 2 digits to cast this card. I know it's an Eldrazi, but stop thinking it's a billion mana. This is actually what this is here. Is 6 mana to cast because you're going to be madnessing it into play every single time. And there's like a billion bit different ways to do it. You can play this in Tron, full Tron gets you this card plus some, so plus 1. So that's something, as long as you can somehow discard it. And again, there are plenty of like playable ways in Modern to do it without having to play bad cards. This is a disgusting Magic card. It only costs 6 mana. Just bookend it with that. Just remember, this costs 6 mana. And so it's on the list. But I got to calm down. I'm being too loud. Taylor was right. Number 12 is Necro Dominance here. This is another one that I've seen a lot of people, like other content creators, kind of waffling back and forth on. I'll take a pretty like big stance on this card. This card is great. I actually think this card is phenomenal. This is another one the more I think about, the more I think like, oh, you're just drawing cards. You just get to draw the cards you would like to draw. So that's good. Like, what's the downside of this exactly? Like it's a Necropotence. Like, sure, your, maximum hand size is 5. I don't really care. I don't think that Modern really has access to this, like a card like this, like a Yawgmoth's Bargain Necropotence kind of effect in this color, or in any color for that matter. So, pay life, draw a card has been busted since 1995. And like, I know that not everything that was busted in 95 is still busted. As a matter of fact, a lot of things that are not anymore. By definition. This is not one of them. This has always been busted and always will be. Let's move on to number 11, the honorable mention for the top 10. Let's talk about Planeswalkers, baby. Let's finally do that. I'm only going to be counting 2 Planeswalkers here. Every entry most entries, again, you'll see when we get to the energy one what I'm talking about, but most entries on this list that are more than 1 card, I've tried to keep myself down to 2 cards. Mostly for self-editing purposes. I think it's very important. We don't want to be here for 3 hours. Well, most of us don't. So, it's hot in this room is all I'm saying. But with that in mind, I'm not going to talk about Ajani as much as I think Ajani is so good. I really do. But I think there are 2 better Planeswalkers in the set. And the first one is Grist. A single green mana to get this thing going. Just 1 mana Planeswalker. You'll note that the other Planeswalker we'll talk about next is also 1 mana. I like playing 1 mana for a Planeswalker. That seems like a nice deal, but it's actually like not the most embarrassing thing in creature form. Doesn't die to Bowmasters. That's kind of neat. But there's also all these like turn 2 unearthed setups in Modern for it where you get this back. you dump it somehow for a mana on turn 1 or even turn 2, and then for 1 mana you get it back. And it just kind of is a planeswalker, so that's pretty he's going to bust up artifacts and enchantments, which I've heard a couple of people say isn't a big deal in Modern, but it actually, depending on what you're playing against, like, yeah, it's absolutely Amulet and sometimes Tron and stuff. Like, there are decks that play artifacts and enchantments, you know what I mean? So I think it's actually sweet to have that ability online on turn 2, but just making like an army of dudes starting to plus this on turn 2, I think is often good enough too. So it's just kind of a lot of pressure as the game goes on. Just a really, really good Magic card. But I think like maybe easily one of the best cards in the entire set is Aunt Tammy, baby. Like finally an awesome Tamiya. Yeah, I've always liked Tamiya. One of my favorite planeswalkers, and this is just, oh my goodness. This is one of the strongest planeswalkers I've ever seen, maybe. It's a single mana, again, just like Grist, 1 mana to get this thing going. And once you've drawn your third card, your third turd, why do I want to say turd like a lot in this video? Anyway, once you've drawn your third card in a turn, you get to flip her over, and she's a planeswalker. A second ago, I was like, dude, there's so many good turn 2 setups with Grist, and they don't make you play bad cards. That's even more true of Tamiya. Just like draw cards, and you get to flip her over on turn 2, and it's not hard. There's probably 24 or more. I had to think about it. There's probably at least 25, like playable cards in blue and other colors even that'll effectively just draw you 2 cards on turn 2, and then you get to flip Tammy over, and then you'll never get attacked for real damage for the rest of the game. She does other stuff too. Like, his second ability is stupid. So like, really, this card is like almost a bridge too far, to be honest. Really shot for the moon for this one. So just the Moonfolk joke, by the way. But either way, just a good, really, really phenomenal Magic card altogether. And I do have this like weird fear almost that it is maybe the best card in the set, and we just all don't know it yet. Number 10 is a sideboard card. It's Vexing Bauble. That's right. To start off the top 10, it's a sideboard card. It could go in the main deck of like Urza Saga or something. People keep saying that, so I'm going to assume that it's probably a decent idea, but I'm pretty sure this doesn't fix Magic. I joked on Twitter, I think they fixed Magic, but like, I don't know, man. Like in Legacy and Vintage and stuff, I think this does so much, but even in Modern, like we just got all these free spells in this set, so this is a safety valve on those free spells, but there's a ton of other free spells in Modern, and even like a new mechanic they introduced in the last set, you just cast spells for free too. So it's like, this really does put a valve on like a bunch of really powerful abilities, and in a way allows them to kind of print more free spells in the future, knowing that we do have this to kind of tamp down on them for a single mana. Is it worth a slot in your deck? Probably not in the 60, but again, we're talking the 75, those extra 15 in the board, baby. Absolutely. I think this is going to do an awful lot of work for you. And honestly, even if it's not doing work for you, you just kind of cycle it anyway, so who cares? So it's an egg that cracks, egg decks might want something like that if there's an egg deck in Modern, or you know what I mean? There's just so many things you can do with it. Even outside of just the thing it's meant to do, that maybe it is worth a main deck slot. But one way or the other, we've needed something like this since Force of Will was printed, so I'm glad we got it 30 years later. And number 9 is a card that, like, the more content I watch, the more I'm kind of second-guessing this being a good card at all, actually. But I'm going to stick to my principles. I really like Party Thrasher. Michelangelo is a party dude. This guy's awesome, right? He's like a Better Mtg, Seneschal of the Sun. It's impossible to say that name without sounding a little bit drunk. Seneschal of the Sun. And yeah, Inti's a standard card, and this is Modern we're talking about here, but I think this is mostly for different decks. An upgraded Inti. It doesn't grow your dudes the way Inti does. That kind of sucks, but it still lets you pitch cards. That turns into an upside real quick. It lets you play cards the red way, draw cards the red way, right? And that first line of text is actually really good, not just with itself, but with Reckless Impulse effects and other red ways of drawing cards, right? But with adventures too, and like a bunch of other different mechanics, this effect works really, really well. So, and maybe just even in Burn, it works well. They made the guy a 1/4. You can't Orcish Bowmasters him at all, right? You certainly can't even bolt him. So I know he's not the most aggressive creature in the world in terms of stat line, but they made him really difficult to actually deal with. And I think if he gets a few triggers over the course of a game, he's kind of running away with it a little bit. So I really wouldn't doubt this dude too much. Number 8 is a lot of people's number 4. It's Ocelot Pride. I'm not that big into it, although I mean, it's cats. I like cats. It's a good one drop, but there's a part of me that pulls at me that says like, dude, it's just a 1-mana 1/1 first strike lifelink. That's all. Come on, dude. Is it that good? Like your opponent plays a 2-drop and you can never attack with this again. Like, come on, man. Is it actually good? It dies to Bowmasters. Is this a good Magic card? But again, people have convinced me. And the more I think about it, the more I think like if Ragavan is a playable 1-drop in Modern, this is probably a playable 1-drop in Modern. And in some ways, it's like Ragavan insurance. Like this blocks and kills a Ragavan, gains you a life too. So I guess that's kind of neat. But mostly this is meant to snowball value for you, get you an extra token every turn, starting on turn 2. And by turn 3 or 4, you can roll that into something else because you got so many dudes on the table, whatever, right? So I do like that about the card. I like the way that it plays 1-2 on curve with the new Ajani, right? That card wants you to play cats. This is like instantly the best 1-drop cat ever printed. Sorry, Savannah Alliance, but still just a really kind of awesome Magic card in terms of raw stats and the ability to put so much advantage on the table just for a 1-drop. Number 7 is the energy stuff. If you had number 7, you won the pool. All right, so I'm gonna look at my notebook for this because I've actually written down a fair number of cards that are all energy based and they're all really good. I really think they're trying to push an energy deck into Modern with some of the stuff that we got. We got Galvanic Discharge, which might actually be the best thing. 3 energy for 1 mana and you remove guys. That's pretty good. But there's also stuff like Tune the Narrative, which is 1 energy for 2 mana, draw a card, instant speed, cantrip effect. That gives you energy is gross. A lot of people talking about Amped Raptor. I'm not sure where I am on Amped Raptor. I don't think it's great, dies to Bowmasters, but also always leave some sort of value behind apart from just dying to Bowmasters. So that's probably, seems like it kind of answers Bowmasters in that way. But aside from that, there's also even like a mana rock that looks really good in this set. This 2 mana rock over here that gives you energy when it comes into play. There's Wrath of the Skies, a sweet looking little like energy payoff thing. That's kind of a wrath. There's the 2 mana Gargoyle, Riddlegate Gargoyle, I think it's called. It's like Azorius, and it gives you 3 energy when it comes into play. 2 mana, 2/2 flyer. It's all really, really good. There's a 1 mana white like removal spell that requires energy. That's awesome. Jolted Awake is the other like reanimation spell that cares about energy. It also looks pretty decent. So like there's a really nice energy package, and I didn't even mention like all of the energy cards. Like one of the better looking MDFCs is an energy card. They're just everywhere. So there's a lot of awesome stuff in this set that looks to, again, introduce a real energy deck into Modern. And I think they might pull it off. Number 6, I'm just calling these untapped lands, right? These things right here on your screen. And like I said earlier, with everything except energy that is a multiple card entry, I'm just going to try to stick to the best 2, like the 2 that I think are the absolute best. And in this case, I'm going to start with the black one, which was the toughest call. What's the second best one, you know? It's like the white one costs too much mana. The blue one's a little bit niche, but it might just be Tolarian Academy. I really doubt it, though. The red one looks okay, and it's like really extremely low opportunity cost in aggro decks. So that was almost the one I wanted to point out. But instead, you see you're staring at the swampy one right now. That's because I think this one is actually way better than it's getting any credit for. This has a really, really low activation cost of just a single black mana. And even though you're not going to be like using it every single turn, it doesn't care what died. Like you can point a removal spell at a thing and then suddenly one of your dudes connives. That's, you know, your guy gets bigger and a drawn card. You see more cards, and that's actually really disgusting on a land, especially, again, just hammering it home here with that low of an activation cost. I think this card is kind of phenomenal and not getting the credit it deserves, but the one that everyone's talking about is the green one because it's good. This one costs a lot of mana to activate, like a ton of mana. I was just bagging on the white one because it costs like 4 mana, but this one also costs like that much. But Shifting Woodland, is that what it's called? Did I get it right? I'm not sure. It's the green one. A lot of people talking about the setups with this, you know, like this can just be omniscience in your graveyard or whatever. You know, it sees literally everything in your yard and can become just about anything, non-land permanent in your yard, or just permanent. Does it say non-land? I'm not even sure, but yeah, just becoming a permanent is like some pretty sick stuff. Even if this isn't like some dumb combo piece that tries to do something silly and make you like a 10 drop. I think it's just like good value in a deck like, again, Yogg. I keep bringing up Yogg, but like that deck is green-black. It could definitely use a thing that just puts its Yogg back on the table in the mid game, right? So that deck already kind of has some grind, some fight to it. And I think this just helps it even more. So it just incidentally slots into stuff that's already popular. The card is very good. My number 5 is another deviation from a lot of people's lists. I think it's Imskir Iron Eater. I think a chatter put it the best when we first read this card during preview season. I think the chat went something like, isn't this card just insane? ? And yeah, I actually think that's the best way to sum it up. The card is kind of just insane. This is like a 2 mana 5/5 that draws you like 3 cards when it comes into play. And that might be one of the best creatures ever printed. And I just think like a 5/5 that gives you half of a grip back is for 2. What do you want out of a Magic card? It does other stuff too, for that matter. It's got an activated ability that's kind of silly and it can end the game and fling stuff or whatever it does. But I'm not even really that into all that. I'm just really into like a 2-mana 5/5 draw 3. Do you understand that we're like, why is Atraxa good? Who cares if she dies to Doomblade? She draws like 4 or 5 cards. This is 2 mana. You don't have to spend all day trying to figure out how you're going to ramp or reanimate this. No. It's just basically a 2 or 3 mana card every time that you play it. And it just draws you the same amount of cards that Atraxa plays and has like not the same stat line, doesn't have lifelink or flying or anything, but still fat dude 5/5. So I just don't know why more people aren't into this card, but I honestly think it might be like low-key the best card in the entire set. And like nobody else sees it, and I feel like I'm just being gaslit like constantly. This card is unbelievable, and the more I hear people say it's not, the more I just want to tear what remains of my hair out, because if like a 2-mana 5/5 draw 3 or more cards when it comes into play isn't good in 2024, then like Magic has gone far too far. It's in here with the heavy hitters, man. Like this is number 5, and number 4 is Ugin's Labyrinth. That's where I think we are with Mtg. Like I honestly thought that Labyrinth though would be in my top 3 at the very least, but it's slightly pushed out. It is a pretty narrow card. It wants you to play colorless spells. And big colorless spells in your deck too. But notably, it doesn't say like you have to put an Eldrazi under it. It's just, it cares about colorless stuff. And there's a bunch more just colorless stuff than there is Eldrazi stuff. So I think that's something that we all need to kind of keep in mind. That it doesn't have to be an Eldrazi, but still. This is a land that taps for 2 mana starting on turn 1. And so it's easily one of the best cards, not only in the set, but that they printed in like, I don't know, 20 years. And I stick by it, dude. I stand by it. I said that stuff on Twitter and everyone was like, oh, you mean it's the best land they printed in like 2 years? And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure it's the most busted land they printed in 25 years. And I'm a principled man. And yes, I know they printed like Urza's Saga and stuff in the last couple of years, but I also don't care. I think that the land that taps for 2 mana with no real debt, like you can just do that on turn 1 or whatever. Like that's a good Magic card. And I really don't think it's controversial to say that. Anyway, number 3, big 3, everybody. We finally made it together, hand in hand. Harbinger of the Seas. Up next. This is one of those videos where I have less to say about my top 3 than I do about some of the other ones, because they're just like so self-evident. Like, have you seen this? Get a load of this. This thing's good. Look at that text. Look at that casting cost. So, yeah. It's a Magus of the Moon, or like a Blood Moon or whatever, but it's Islands, which I think is better because, if you have access to red mana, you can always shoot down a Magus of the Moon with like a shock or something like that. This is a little bit harder to get rid of if everyone only has access to blue, right? So that's a thing. I really kind of want to make all 3 of my top 3 cards number 1. I am so close to just being like, they're all number 1. Because I'm not sure there's really that big of a degree of difference between all these cards, right? Because Harbinger of the Seas is Flood Moon. That's another thing. I got to give chat credit for that. That one didn't come from me, although I really wish it did. But Flood Moon. Good job, Twitch chat. Flood Moon is obviously just a disgusting Magic card, right? Like once it's resolved, it's pretty stupid. And also, Blood Moon doesn't have this going for it, but this isn't a color where you can almost ensure that it does resolve, right? Just back it up with counter spells. Can't really do that as much in red, so that's good. But there's also Winter Moon, which is my number 2. Look, there have been people trying to convince me for a week that this is bad. And I don't know what's wrong with you. I think that there's like a weird phenomenon we experience sometimes where a card is so good that like in some people's minds, it horseshoes around to being bad, right? Like they look at it and they're like, that's too good to be good. But in this case, I think it is. I think they just printed this. I think that somebody was like, what if Blood Moon and Winter Orb? And they're like, sure. Well, yes, that's 2 references. Old people will love that. And yet I do actually love the 2 references. I think that you also made the card the way it should be made if it's referencing both those cards. Honestly, genius design on this thing, but I'm also a little bit afraid of it. Any card can play this. Any deck. I can't even talk. Any deck can play this thing in the world. And it's just a stupid sideboard piece. But is it even a sideboard piece? Is it even that? Is this main deckable? I don't know. Like every deck in Modern plays non-basics? Yeah, kind of. So I want to group like Harbinger and this Winter Moon together. And I kind of did here for all intents and purposes, but there's a reason they're all the way like number 3 and number 2. These are absolutely disgusting, super disruptive to most game plans. Like, yeah, why is this card bad exactly? Again, people have been trying to convince me the card's bad. Can you Make arguments for this card being bad down there. I bet you can't do it. But number one, conspicuous in their absence so far, so maybe you guessed, although I probably left a couple of things off this list that you would expect to be here. Like, there's no Ugin's Binding. No, I actually don't think it's that great in Modern. You talk about Commander. I don't know about Modern, though, but when it comes to actual Modern and Vintage, Legacy, whatever, I think the Flares are definitely the best cards in the set. And I say that with, this is a set with, an Ancient Tomb or whatever, like it's a land that taps for 2. This is a set with Winter Moon as well as Magus of the Tides or whatever it's called. I keep wanting to call it Magus of the Tides, Harbinger of the Sea. I think Magus of the Tides already exists. This set has so many ridiculous cards, but I still think the Flares are far and above the best cards in the set. And depending on what format you're talking about, I think some of them are better in Commander than others. But when we're talking about Modern, if I had to pick exactly 2 to talk about, I really want to talk about the black one because I think the black one's really good. I think, again, to bring up Yawgmoth, Scam, these decks, sacrifice your Amass. Oh, you can't do that. It has to be non-token creature, but still. Both those decks have black dudes to sacrifice to the black one, so I think it's phenomenal. But the best are probably the blue one. And I'm starting with this because I think the other one I'm going to point out is technically better in Modern, but just has the better setups. But this one, even though it requires a non-token blue creature to be sacked, I think is still, again, just almost certainly, if not the best and the second best of all of these. I think a lot of decks can muster a non-token blue creature if they want to, play this for free. But even if you can't play it for free, it's a cancel, which isn't the best thing in the world, but it is definitely a rate you will take. Still, I think the blue one is absolutely A grade in Modern. But as far as S tier Modern spells go, I think the green one is just a cut above basically all of these, dude. A couple of people have already brought up the Arboreal Grazer line, which is probably the actual best line with this card. Drop Grazer, turn 1, drop a land, sack your Grazer for free, go, Kadama's Reach or whatever, cultivate. And ramp on turn 1, ramp to 3 on turn 1 or whatever it is. It's just absolutely gross, dude. So there's too many good setups with this card. And Arboreal Grazer just one, but even stuff like Elvish Mystic or whatever are good setups with this card. This kind of fast mana is really, really dangerous. And I guess that's my basic point with putting this as the best card in the set for Modern play, is that this is fast mana. If you don't think this is real, true fast mana, you haven't had the card played against you yet. I haven't had the card played against me yet, but I can tell. Turn one land ramp is just literally unheard of in the history of Magic the Gathering for the most part. So this card is not only the best card for Modern play, but it might be one of the best cards for Legacy and Vintage play as well, because we really don't see this kind of land ramp every day. It's special. But, we made it, everybody. 25, probably closer to 35 cards to talk about today, and we did it. And yeah, like I said, there were some cards I left off the list that may be conspicuous. Let me know the cards you thought would be on the list down there in the comments section, but also, remember, we've already done our sleepers list. Maybe go look for your cards there. And I've got one more video I want to do for MH3 season. And that is the most overrated cards in the set. We'll see if I even put that one out. Let me know if you want to see it. I'm not sure. But after that, we get back to standard and rotation proof talk and Bloomburrow talk. It's going to be a good time. So stick with the channel. Sub to the sandwich. Like the video if you didn't hit the thumb icon earlier. Now's probably a decent time while I'm finishing off my jaw jack, and we got about 30 seconds left of it to go. But either way, do all the channel stuff and hit up the Patreon too if you want to support my stuff. If you like what I do around here, it's supported by viewers like you. So, it'd be really nice if you get in there. Just hit the link in the description. Go to Patreon. $1 a month is all I ask you to vote on what content we do. But either way, pitches over, everybody. Just let me know how you felt about all the stuff around here. And we had a good season, all things considered. Modern Horizons is a really good set. This is a powerful Magic set. Jeez Louise, macaroni and cheese. It's a really crazy set. But either way, kind of glad we're done with it now. We get to get back to standard, which is where I live. But love you guys. And just let me know in the comments section. Any questions? I don't know. Just hit me up down there and I'll catch you cats later. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.